Tuesdays. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Building and Lands Committee meeting. It is 6:36. Agenda number item A1831, which has to do with the property maintenance code. In advance of discussion, take roll call. Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Mr. Dembinski.
Here.
Mr. Winarski is present. Mr. Calgar.
Here.
Mr. Nahorn.
Present.
Okie dokie. Most of the administration's here with the exception of Mr. Pitak, excuse me. I also have a note here from Mr. Van Truen that they'd be excused. I'll entertain a motion if Mr. Calgar.
Make a motion to excuse Mr. Antruan and Mr. Patek.
Thank you. Mr. Dembinski.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to excuse those two. Any conversation or discussion? With none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Anyone against say no. Okay, they are excused. Very good. Once again, A1831, this is the property maintenance code. It was introduced by the building inspector. Building inspector is absent this evening, and we also received an email from him requesting that we table this while he has a conversation with the law director. Anyone from the administration care to comment?
Oh, yeah, basically, I was talking to Mr. Carlson today. The task that's before the law department is simply, we needed some time to look at the cross-references of our existing code to make sure that we capture everything. If we're going to adopt the International Property Maintenance Code in total, we need to review all of our existing provisions, the Amherst codified ordinances, and any cross-referencing so that everything's done, precisely. We don't want to miss something. There may be some provisions in our existing code provisions that the international code doesn't address that we want to maintain and keep in place. So it's going to take some time. It's not a simple fix. The building department wants to get going on this, but from our end, we need to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
Okay.
And this is a big item. When we bring these things before you, sometimes these things look really simple on the outside, but there is really a lot to this. I think the link was sent to council, so it'll also give council a little bit more time to review it. So I would suggest, with summer break coming, maybe we call this back that first meeting in September. Would be a good time to bring this back.
Okay, and I would maybe even be hesitant to attach a date on it until the law department, the building department.
I mean, if you want to,
I think we'll be ready by then.
I think we'll be ready. Frank seems to think we'll, by August we'll be done. But I think if we have a September date, then that's even better. So.
Okay. All right. Anything else from the administration? Okay, we'll turn it over to council. Mr. Calgar.
I'd like to make a motion to table this item.
Okay. Mr. Dembinski?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table this. Any conversation, discussion? All right. We'll just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against, say nay. Passes 6-0. Mr. Calgar?
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Dembinski?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? With that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against, nay? We are adjourned at 6:40. 3:50.
the regular meeting of the Amherst City Council to order July 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Janik?
Here.
Mr. Van Turen? Mr. Dembinski?
Here.
Mr. Cowger?
Here.
Mr. Winarski?
Here.
Mr. Nahorn?
Present.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
Mr. Calvis.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Van Turen and Mr. Patek from tonight's meeting. They both have letters on file.
Thank you, Mr. Dembinski.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to excuse Mr. Van Truen and Mr. Patek. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried 6-0. They are excused. And now I ask that you stand to be led by Chaplain Nahorn in the prayer and the pledge to the flag by Sergeant at Arms Dembinski.
Please join me in bowing your heads. Gracious God, as local representatives of the people of Amherst, serving in the closest layer of government to the people, we are charged with important duties. On Independence Day, 1981, President Ronald Reagan provided this timeless message with clear and direct delivery. Let the 4th of July always be a reminder that here in this land, for the first time, it was decided that man is born with certain God-given rights, that government is only a convenience created and managed by the people, with no powers of its own except those voluntarily granted to it by the people. We sometimes forget that truth, and we never should. Happy 4th of July. Let us, as government representatives of Amherst citizens, continue to remember this truth in all we do. And now let the words of our mouths and meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your vision. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go to item 4 on the agenda, consent agenda.
Minutes of the regular council meeting held June 25th, 2018. Minutes of the Building and Lands Committee meeting held July 9th, 2018.
Mr. Dembinski.
Move to accept the consent agenda as read.
Mr. Calvin.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as read. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried 6-0. The consent agenda is accepted. We'll go to item number 5 on the agenda. We have 2 guests from WOW, and Mr. Michael Kaczmarski and Mr. David Rinaldi. Welcome, Mr. Kaczmarski and Mr. Rinaldi. Would you like to go to the microphone? State your name and your company that you represent.
Good evening, Michael Kaczmarski with Wow Internet Cable and Phone, and David Rinaldi.
Why don't you go ahead and you can stand up there too.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Rinaldi. I believe I've spoken with you over the past few months.
Great.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'd like to say again, thank you for allowing us to introduce ourselves earlier last year and giving us the opportunity to come to town. I was asked earlier, a couple weeks back, to give an update at the meeting here today to tell us where we are with our project and the construction project that we have going for Amherst. Great news is we are complete with all of the public access houses that we have. So we've already have all of the homes that we will be having from a public standpoint into our system and available to the residents of the city. And we have several of the installs already going through. We've got about quite a few more running. So you'll see the construction teams have moved out, our installation teams, our maintenance teams have moved in. So again, I want to thank the residents, I want to thank the council. I think we quickly addressed any issues that may have come up as we do these projects once in a while. Some things happen, but Dave and team handled those pretty steadily, swiftly, and I think to the satisfaction of all of your residents. That being said, the only thing left for us to do when you see any construction on our side would be any type of repair work that, from any type of damages, things like that, or any type of right of entries, so private properties that we haven't gained access to up to this point. So that's where we stand from that. Is there any questions on any? Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. Mike, Dan, thank you guys for coming up again. I missed you the first time. And I was unaware when I read the contract. I didn't catch the small blurb of we'll be digging in front yards. And it's one thing to dig in the street access area between sidewalk and street, where we expect damage from snow and salt and plows and those kind of things. It's another thing to be digging up somebody's front yard. And I get that that is how you guys have to get through there. I did check and spoke with the mayor and spoke with others and looked on the auditor's site, and you guys do have a variance. So you have a variance up to so many feet off of the center of the road, which allows you to go past the sidewalk. So you weren't doing anything, and I want to make sure that people who have come to me and residents have spoken to me understand that you have stayed within the legal rights of, and because of the variance that we granted. So we said, hey, you have access. We voted to accept you guys to come through here. My recommendation, my request, my plea, my standing up for the residents, myself included, who lives in a residence, doesn't have poles, is that you guys do maybe through your installation teams, maybe through your marketing sales teams that walk around, make some notes of homes that have been torn up and it's brown spots and it's uneven dirt and it's a mess, because that to me is not doing good business. I can speak for my neighborhood because I walk it, and there's quite a few in the North Point development that need attention. So if you could put that in your notes, and also put in your notes to have your sales force kind of jot down. And then the second piece would, how would you want us to contact? How would our residents get a hold of you? What would be a way to make sure that if they have an issue with how their yard was handled,
Sure.
how it would be remedied, so I can get that answered.
So first of all, apologies for disturbing any of the properties. And again, when you build this in there, it is a challenge to get these in there and get them the right way. We did do a pretty good job of getting the lines through and getting them in there and trying to disturb as little as possible. You know, unfortunately, there's going to be some disruption there. Our team members have jumped on all the ones that have come through, but wowsbuildingachoice.com is the best way to address those, and that'll go to Dave and team and myself as well. But we get those looked at very quickly, and wowsbuildingachoice.com.
Wow is building, so it's all one word. Wow is building achoice.com. And so when we go to that website, there will be somewhere located within that.
You'll send an email out to that to get us to
not the website.
wowsbuilding.com.
So there's an app missing if you want to email. This looks like a website.
The actual email.
No worries. Can you, that's okay, can you get that to our
We'll have that
clerk? And then, that would be great. And then we, all
Building Choice at Wowway.
right, because I'd like to get that out to our residents so that if there's an issue, hey, could you come out and take a look at resod, reseed or whatever?
Yeah, and a quick note to that, as we go through this, and we've done this in the past, and you know, when you have rough, dry summers, it does take a beating, and we do our best to maintain it, get it back to its original condition. We would ask the help of the residents to make sure that they water it as best as can when we do go back over it, because we've had some instances in the past, not with Amherst here, but in our previous, where we've done all that work and put all that money into restoring it, and it wasn't watered, and then it ended up being futile.
Well,
So,
I think it's a team effort.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, and I'm sure they'll work with you.
Wow is building a choice.
All right. So that honestly, if people haven't had a chance to have your sales team knock on a door, and I do want to commend, I think his name was Sean, who came in and he was extremely professional, polite, explained things. I made note, I said, please send that back to you guys. And he said he would. And I think that this is going to be a nice opportunity, a nice choice, customer choice, and consumers should gain something from this. So thank you for bringing in. This would probably make you guys shine.
And, you know, you can also share it. You know, I'll talk to our sales team to make sure that they look at that as well and see what they can see. But, you know, the resident, as they're talking to the sales rep, certainly share that information. They'll be passing that along to us as well. So, with all of those, you know, our best effort to make it the most pleasant experience for all the customers, residents, but customers or non-customers alike.
Fantastic. Well, I'll just wait for you to get that to me and I'll give you the card.
1 second. Yeah, I've never emailed that.
If you'd like.
Email yourself?
What you can do is you have my email, and I will give it to Mrs. Savinsky, and she will make sure that all the council members
Absolutely.
have that
That's great.
email.
Sure. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Anything else I can answer?
Yes, before we go on, Mr. Dembinski, I'll call on you next. Mr. Costello, Mr. Mayor, was there a variance granted, or there was a reference to?
Use variance?
Well,
You know, I don't think, there was a right-of-way use agreement.
Right-of-way.
And a full attachment agreement. I don't think there was any variance.
Right, not technically
They were
a
not allowed
variance.
to be outside the public right-of-way.
Yeah,
the
so
variance just
you
might have been
were
wrong.
never
It was
in,
the
you
words.
were always, even though you were on
Utility.
people's front lawns, you were within the public utility right of way, is
Correct.
correct?
The city didn't allow it to venture outside of that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so it was part of the right of way. People were not aware of that some of their side lawns had right of way, all public right of way also, correct?
And in most cases, we followed power and we aligned ourselves where power or the previous provider had their boxes as well. So we've been in line with all of that. Anything, shouldn't have been anything outside of that.
Okay,
thank you.
very good. Thank you, Mr. Dembinski.
Thank you. Similar to that, we had people reach out to me, and I always forward them off to Mr. Rinaldi, and you were exceptional in getting back to it. There was more than one time when I would receive an email, and by the time I talked to the resident, they were there. There was somebody from WOW at that resident's house within an hour. And especially a thank you, because there was one time I was actually in Florida, and it was on the weekend.
On your way back from Orlando.
Yep. And we were actually texting back and forth, and he was able to have a piece of machinery moved from in front of somebody's house so that their kid could have a birthday party there the next day. So not everything was always perfect. Again, it's a big construction project. Some of that's to be expected. But, I mean, from dealing with your service team, it was very well done. So thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you. It was really a pleasure working with all of you. I know that there were difficult instances, but the amount of patience and the amount of support that we received from all of you is, I appreciate it. It certainly made my job a little bit easier and allowed us to rectify any issues quickly with the amount of communication that we did receive from your group. So I do personally want to thank you and tell you it was a pleasure working with you.
Are there any other comments or questions for our WOW representatives? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you personally. I know you received a couple of communications from me. And you answered them all very, very quickly. So there were several dozen residents, I think, that got in touch with me. So, thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we will go to item 6, acknowledgement of the public pertaining to items on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak on any item on the agenda? Seeing none, we will go to item 7. Items, ordinances and resolutions, first reading. Item 7A, Mrs. Savinsky.
An ordinance repealing chapters 1341, 1342, and 1344 of Part 13, Title 3 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Amherst and enacting a new chapter 1340 entitled Property Maintenance, which adopts the International Property Maintenance Code 2015 edition, including Appendix A thereto relating to boarding standards with certain amendments and additional provisions, and amending Section 112503 of the Codified Ordinances to grant jurisdiction to the Board of Zoning Appeals to hear and determine appeals from decisions, notices, or orders of the code official acting under the International Property Maintenance Code.
Mr. Calgar.
I'd like to make a motion to remove item A from the agenda.
Mr. Dembinski.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to remove item 7A from tonight's agenda. Seeing no comments or questions, roll call vote, please.
Do we have a second?
Wait,
I'm sorry, I didn't, was there a second? Okay, I didn't hear it.
yes, Mr. Dembinski seconded.
Mr. Janik?
Yes.
Mr. Dembinski?
Yes.
Mr. Cowger?
Yes.
Mr. Winarski?
Yes.
Mr. Nahorn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Vote is 6-0. Item carries, and item 7A is removed from tonight's agenda. We will go on to item 8, ordinances and resolutions, second reading, item 8A.
An ordinance amending Amherst Codified Ordinance, Chapter 1121, Section 1121.07, and amending Chapter 1145, Section 1145A and 1145B.
Mr. Cowger.
I'd like to make a motion to move item 8A onto the third reading.
Mr. Winarski.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to move item 8A to the third reading. Comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Janik?
Yes.
Mr. Dembinski?
Yes.
Mr. Cowger?
Yes.
Mr. Winarski?
Yes.
Mr. Nahorn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 8A is moved to the third reading. We will now go to item 9, ordinances and resolutions, third reading. Item 9A, please.
An ordinance adopting the new Chapter 1153 to Part 11, Title 5 of the Amherst Codified Ordinances entitled Mobile Vending, pertaining to the regulation of mobile vending and mobile vending devices within the city.
Mr. Winarski.
I'd make the motion to adopt.
Mr. Cowell.
I'll second with comment.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to adopt. Mr. Cowger, please.
Yes, I'm glad that this is going through. I did receive communication from one of the constituents in my ward where they had an ice cream truck coming through the development and hit his wife's car, causing $6,000 worth of damage. The ice cream truck came out of the Cleveland area. The driver and the vehicle both were uninsured, and the ice cream truck had dealer plates that every time it came in had different dealer plates on it. So with them having to contact and register, this should help protect some of the residents from this point.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. So, my misunderstanding, I thought that they wouldn't have to register. Ice cream trucks weren't having to register with the city.
I think they still pay that fee to register and have to carry the insurance and all those other items. There was just a special section that gave them a few other exemptions, but
Okay.
they have to go through the entire process.
So if they're going to be,
They carry the insurance
Okay.
in order to work within the city.
okay. If they just come to somebody's private entity or property and have ice cream and provide it, they wouldn't have to register.
That was different, I believe.
Right. So as long, so
In this case, I think they were driving up.
because they're selling on the street. Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. No further questions. Yield the
Thank
floor.
you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Janik?
Yes.
Mr. Dembinski?
Yes.
Mr. Cowger?
Yes.
Mr. Winarski?
Yes.
Mr. Nahorn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Vote is 6-0. Item 9A is adopted.
It'll be ordinance 01825.
All right, we will go on now to item 10, miscellaneous and acknowledgement of the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak on any item? Mr. Dembinski.
Thank you. A few months ago, I had a program put on from the Ohio State Extension Office, and there was some paperwork that I had left over and I thought might be pertinent to people. I went through over the weekend and just dropped a copy in front of your chairs. If you have any questions about that, or would you like more copies, just let me know. But I'm not going to go too far into it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dembinski. And item 11, agenda requests and committee meeting schedules. Mrs. Zirinsky.
I have, one item, Madam President. It was to finance A1832, and it's to increase appropriations in park and pool accounts. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Now we'll go through the committees. I just note, when we get to streets, Mr. Janik, you are the vice chair, and Mr. Winarski, you are the vice chair of annexation. So I will ask you to respond. Finance, Mr. Cowger.
Yes, one item, agenda A1832. I would like to call that for July 23rd at 6:45, and it's to increase appropriations in park and pool accounts. And that is complete, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Building and lands, Mr. Winarski.
Nothing at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. Streets, Mr. Janik.
No items, Madam President, please cancel.
Thank you very much. Community development, Mr. Miller.
No items, please cancel.
Thank you. Executive, Mr. Miller.
No items, please cancel.
Thank you. Ordinance, Mr. Dembinski.
No items at this time, Madam President, please cancel.
Thank you. Utilities, Mr. Janik.
No items, Madam President, please cancel.
Thank you. Recycle, Mr. Nahon.
Please keep recycling.
Thank you. Technology, Mr. Dembinski.
No items at this time, Madam President, please cancel.
Thank you. Police and fire, Mr. Winarski.
Nothing at this time, Madam President.
Annexation, Mr. Winarski.
Nothing at this time, Madam President.
Thank you very much. We will now go to item 12, reports of the administration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Pecora?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Ramsey?
Our June reports have been distributed. End of my report.
Thank you. Mr. Jeffries?
No report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one quick note, the item that is going to finance on the 23rd, just want to make council aware I will be needing the emergency and suspension of rules, and that's going to be all on the same day, so please, if anybody's uncomfortable with that, these are items that will be needed to finish the year out at the pool. The pool's been very busy this year, so it's mostly items we're going to be reimbursed for, the concessions money, it's in and out. We added some security. So that's just things that I have to have with council going away in August. So please let us know. I'd be happy to schedule special meetings if we need to, but that's something I really need passed that day. So thank you. In the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Calvert.
Make a motion to accept the reports of the administration.
Mr. Dembinski.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to accept the reports of the administration. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried 6-0. The reports of the administration are accepted. We'll go to item 13, acknowledgement of the receipt of the monthly reports from the auditor and the treasurer. Mr. Ramsey has noted that his reports were submitted. We also have distributed, you should also have received the auditor's report also. Mr. Dembinski.
Move to acknowledge the monthly reports from the auditor and treasurer.
Thank you. Mr. Collins.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to acknowledge the receipt of the monthly reports from the auditor and treasurer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried 6-0. The receipt of the monthly reports from the auditor and treasurer is acknowledged. Thank you very much. Item 14, adjournment. Mr. Dembinski.
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Calder.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried 6-0. We are adjourned at 7:20. Thank you very much.